I have been using this Pixel 6a for a few days now, and in this video I'm going to tell you whether you should buy one or not. So this phone was released back in 2022 as a mid-range device and it's still available brand new. One of the most interesting things about this phone is that it has a Google Tensor Generation 1 chip, which is the same chip that you can find in a Pixel 6. But this phone has only 6 gigs of RAM, where the Pixel 6 has 8 gigs of RAM. The display on this phone is 60Hz, it's an OLED panel with Gorilla Glass 3 for protection, and the back is just plastic. The available storage on this phone is 128 GB, and that's the only storage that it comes with, and there's no options to upgrade the storage as well. When it comes to charging is limited to 18 watts of wired charging, and you do not get wireless charging with this phone, guys. So those are some of the key interesting things I can say about this phone. One of the main things that I want to talk about in detail is the performance of this phone. A Google Tensor Generation 1 chip with 6 gigs of RAM. When I bought this phone, I thought it's going to be slow as hell, but that's not the case. This phone performed way above my expectations. This phone is like super responsive and it did not lag at all. I think one of the main reasons it was able to perform well is the 60Hz panel. So it's not much pressure on the CPU and the GPU to render 60Hz rather than 90Hz on the Pixel 6. Apps like Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Google Maps and Twitter works just fine without a problem, and you can expect this phone to perform like a true flagship. But to keep you guys checked, since this phone has a 60Hz panel, you will notice the 60Hz, especially if you are used to 90Hz or if not 120Hz, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so the second most interesting thing about this phone for me is the camera setup. You get a 50 megapixel main lens and a 12 megapixel ultra wide lens on the back, which supports up to 4K at 60 fps video recording or 1080p up to 240 fps video recording. And on the front you get a 8 megapixel selfie cam that supports up to 1080p at 30 fps video recording. The details on the pictures you take with this phone is going to be amazing, and it doesn't feel like a mid-range phone, especially in the camera department. I'll add some sample pictures over here for you all to decide the camera quality. So currently this phone is running on Android 15 beta version, and you will get software updates till July 2025 and security updates till July 2027, so pretty much future-proof. And even if you break stuff on this phone like the display or the back glass, you got nothing to worry about, guys, because the parts for this phone is very cheap. Alright, so I want to talk about biometrics. So on standard you get an optical fingerprint scanner, pattern or the pin. No option for face unlock. I did notice that a lot of people are making a big fuss about this phone not having a face unlock, but that's something to keep in mind because this phone came at a very reasonable price, and I think the features that you get for the price is absolutely reasonable. Let's talk about battery life. So I fully charged this phone on August 4th at night and used the phone till the battery becomes 50%, and these are the results. I was able to get 4 hours and 20 minutes of screen on time when the battery reached 50%. So that means if I kept the phone till the battery becomes 0%, I should be able to get about 9 hours and 40 minutes of screen on time theoretically. So these are really good numbers. By the way, when I did this battery test, I was only using Wi-Fi and I didn't use any mobile data on this phone. Also, I didn't do any kind of gaming while I did this battery test and kept the brightness of the display to about 40%. So those are the conditions that this phone was on when I did this battery test, which is the very usual way of how I personally use a phone. If you do a lot of gaming and videography on this phone, you will get less screen on time, so keeping you guys checked. Now, I want to talk about some of the issues that I face with this phone. The number one issue that I face with this phone is with the signals. Sometimes I notice it takes a bit long to ring the phone when I receive a call, and sometimes I notice the calls were dropping out when I'm in the call for like a minute or two automatically. So that's one big issue. There are some videos on YouTube though on how to bypass this, but it's not gonna fix the problem fully. The second issue is that this phone can heat up pretty quickly. If you are recording lengthy videos quite often, this phone is not for you guys. Just like the Pixel 6, I got a overheat message after I used the phone for video recording for more than 20 minutes, so that's something to keep in mind. And the third issue that I faced is with this plastic back. This is just gonna get scratched, guys. Even if you have a case on this phone and if there's dust inside, this back will scratch. So that's also something to keep in mind, guys. So let's talk about the price. So this phone is available brand new on Amazon.com for about $230 US. So that's a very good deal, and you can buy one in Sri Lanka brand new for 90,000 Sri Lankan rupees. That's also a good deal. And I bought this used for 55,000 Sri Lankan rupees, which is a tremendous deal actually. So as for my final thoughts, is this a flagship killer? I think it is. You get a flagship chip that doesn't lag, a good camera setup, and security updates till 2027. I can personally recommend this phone to someone, and I see myself using this phone as my own device, so that's a big deal. Let me know down below what you guys think of this phone, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider hitting the subscribe button, guys. It really does help the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.